Welcome to Small Engines Galore. On this episode, we're going to be fixing up this old Craftsman garden tractor that we just picked up from the dump. This thing has got the Vanguard 16 horsepower Briggs & Stratton V-twin and a 6-gear Transaxle. The shifter's on the fender here, which is sweet. And it goes into gear and out of gear very smoothly, nicely. And the body's in halfway decent shape, at least. And the fact that it's a manual transaxle makes it desirable for us, for what we're doing. The plan, I think, for this one is to end up building it into a budget mud mower, because this is Elliot's other tractor. We just picked this thing up from the dump yesterday, and we almost didn't get it. I got the carburetor in the ultrasonic cleaner right now, so we can see if it will run. So yeah, our Vanguard 16 horsepower V-twin, it was all complete when I tore it apart, just to take the carb off and run it through the sonic cleaner. I'm told that this thing does run, but it's been sitting for about 7 years, so we'll see. It was out of fuel, which is good for the rest of the fuel system, being that I don't have to get rid of the old fuel, but it could allow the fuel lines and pump diaphragm to dry out, which would be not good. But I'd rather deal with those parts than replacing those parts and dealing with old fuel. So I'm gonna finish doing this carburetor up and put it back on. Then we're gonna end up seeing if it runs. I think we're gonna ditch the deck on this thing because it's pretty old and rotted out, and there's no deck spindle in on this side, so it's not even worth fixing that bit. So pretty sure that we're gonna ditch this deck and put some bigger tires on here, because these dainty little 20s are probably going to get replaced with 25s. This thing will be like an off-road machine twin, which is going to be good. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and finish this carburetor up, and then let's see if this thing wants to run. All right, guys, I got our carburetor bolted on the best I can onto this tractor. I don't have the plate that covers this main hose here on right now, so that we can see if we got any fuel leaks or anything on this thing. Let's go ahead and see if this thing runs. I'm just gonna hook these cables up to my dad's Kubota, and then we'll see if this thing wants to run for us. It'll be pretty awesome if it does run. So the choke was stuck on because I didn't have the cable adjuster tightened down enough, and it pulled the cable out. So now I got it adjusted better. Let's see if this thing wants to start again without choke this time. That thing runs pretty darn good, actually, which is great. It did die when I let the battery off of it, which means that it's probably because the fuel shut-off solenoid needs power to run. Come to think of it, that knocking or whatever, that slapping around noise, is a bunch of this grass just getting caught up from inside the shield. This shield's probably going to come off of this thing, because I see a lot of these things that are just packed right full of grass. But this thing does run, which is pretty sweet. So I am gonna go ahead and pop the hood back on this thing, and we'll see about getting some new front tires on here. All right, guys, so we're just out here with off-road machine and the new dump tractor. Just got a different battery and get the old fuel solenoid open, and we're going off-roading with this thing right now. We got some cruising around around on up here, including this big hole, which we're going to drive through, and up this dirt hill with a bunch of hills and stuff, obstacles to get us stuck, hopefully. Let's see what this thing does. We're also prepared to get off-road machine because we've got one. So let's give her. The clutch gets stuck down. Yeah, buddies. We're gonna make it. just parked these two. This thing is actually really surprisingly pretty good off-road for a stock mower. Keep in mind that the back tires are completely flat, giving us a pretty good surface area to grab onto the dirt and stuff. But it works pretty good for what it is. And once we get some better battery cables in my vice grips here, we'll get it where it's actually starting and running on its own, under its own power. Anyways, I think the plan for this is to end up building another budget off-road mower similar to that off-road machine over there, just not quite the same, just a little bit different to its own, and a little bit cheaper, I guess, because this is, I guess, like a budget build, whereas that is just whatever Elliot wants to put into it. So in the next couple videos, I think we're going to be sticking bigger tires like on the back of this one onto this guy, and probably upgrading the flex on the front axle so we can be similar to this. This is actually nowhere near full flex on this thing, but that's just what it took to get on top of that tire. So I think that's the plan for this, but if you guys have any ideas on what we should be doing with this brand new Craftsman LT4000, please let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. Welcome back to Small Engines Galore for a second part of, I don't know what we're going to call this series, but it's like a cheaper mud mower that we picked up from the dump. So last episode we picked this tractor up from the dump and got it running and tried it out in stock form, which was actually, it went pretty good for a stock mower, but I think the plan for this is to build it into a bit of a budget mud mower. So we're gonna build this thing into like a mud or off-road mower, similar to off-road machine over there, being that it's the exact same one essentially. Just to remind you guys, it's got a 16 horsepower V-twin and a 6-gear transaxle. Yesterday when we were gonna pull the wheels off of this thing, the back wheels, Spicer 4360, which is the transaxle that was in here, has terrible locking pins to hold the, or locking clips to hold the axles from coming out. They're really weak and they break apparently. Yeah, some imbecile, definitely not us, broke both of the clips and both axles came out, so we're gonna have to fix that. But for now, we swapped in a way stronger transaxle called a Peerless MST 206, which is this guy right here that's in here. You can tell a 206 from a Spicer because it's got all these fins underneath here, and the tag says Peerless MST 206 dash whatever, depends on what your model is. So we're gonna be bolting these wheels and tires up from the off-road Murray onto here for now, because the off-road Murray is going to get a makeover soon. To bolt these up, we're going to use some hubs, which are factory units off of a John Deere 111 lawn tractor. You do not need any spacers with these hubs. They fit directly on the axle, and these are a 3 on 4.5, so any 5 on 4.5 wheel will fit on here. In our case, it's some 5 on 4.5 by 12-inch wheel from actually a MTD 960 garden tractor. Ow. Which is gonna fit right on there like that essentially. So we'll get these things bolted up and then we'll show you what it looks like, and we'll go over the setup more. All right, guys, so what we ended up doing to this tractor that's different from last video, aside from swapping in the 206, which is definitely optional. We definitely could have stuck with the 4360 had the axle clips not broken from the wheels being stuck on there. Aside from that, we have the John Deere 111 5-bolt hubs on here, which just slip onto the axle real nice. And then we have some Wanda AT Master 25 by 10 by 12 ATV tires on the back of this thing, which seems to actually be gripping pretty good so far, as you'll see later in the video. And yeah, same thing on this side. I think these wheels suit this thing pretty good. As far as patina matching, it's pretty close. They aren't silver, but they're not that far off. And then the front wheels are also from the Off-Road Murray, and these are 20 by 8 by 8 front turf tires. Actually, they're back tires off of an MTD garden tractor with FNR Transaxle. They have a double D shaft center in the wheel, and if you die grind the center out, then it fits on the axle. It's the right offset to fit on the spindle and everything without having to cut them down or nothing. So they fit no problem. They do rub on the hood on this one because this one doesn't have a lift kit axle yet. You can see in a couple spots where it's peeled the paint off right there where it's been rubbing. So we'll end up building a lift kit axle for this thing pretty soon. Maybe even in this video, we'll see. But yeah, we need to find a better way of bolting this hood down because it always keeps lifting up and pulling out when the tire is hitting this. And yeah, aside from the wheels and tires, it's as you guys saw it last video. Basically as you see it from the dump. Stock pulley setup, stock belt size, everything. And the issue with the hood doing this is that it won't open all the way without holding down the hood. So we also need to get some better battery clamps in this. These are rubber handled, so they probably won't arc together. And the ground one's on top so that it will touch the hood first before the power side. But yeah, I'm gonna have to build some better battery clamps than that. But aside from many little things, this thing's actually been a pretty good tractor so far for being something free out of the dump. Yeah, so we're gonna continue modifying this thing throughout the video and throughout the next few videos that we do with it, including a way better hood support because that drives me nuts. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and we're just gonna get some driving footage with Elliot driving it because it's his mower, so he better be driving it.
He stalled it again.
Well, that's because the negative battery cable came off. When the negative battery cable vice grip comes off, then it kills the engine because the fuel solenoid has no more power anymore. So it kind of wasn't my fault, except for the fact that I was in 4th gear trying to climb up this embankment thing, which is not very big, by the way.
The hole right there.